Perfect. Thanks everybody for joining the Agile Austin Coaching SIG. We meet the first Monday of every month, and we're very happy that you are here tonight. So if this is your first time attending an Agile Austin event, just a little bit about what Agile Austin is. Our mission is to promote Agile software development through the exchange of ideas and practices while providing opportunities for the professional growth of our members. Agile Austin is a 501c6 nonprofit with appreciation to Andrews Kurth LLP. Very important to thank our sponsors who make this all possible. So our platinum sponsor is Agile Velocity. We also have several gold sponsors and silver sponsors and bronze sponsors. So take a minute to recognize these companies as well. We're very grateful for them all. And then this calendar view is super awesome because it shows all of the Agile Austin monthly events. So I'll anchor here for a minute if anyone wants to take notes on the recurring SIGs that take place. There are interests all across the board. So pretty great, pretty awesome how far-reaching the Agile Austin crew is. And again, we meet the first Monday of every month. So as mentioned a few minutes ago before we officially kicked off, Keep Austin Agile is happening this year. It's just going to be virtual. And it is taking place on November 13th with proceeds benefiting Frontline Foods and African American Youth Harvest Foundation. You can register at that URL on the slide, and tickets are $25. So highly encourage you all to check it out. I think there are 3 speakers and it starts at 9 a.m. I can't remember who the speakers are off the top of my head, but I know they're all great. I remember when I looked at the page, I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, David Marquet is one, I believe.
Very cool.
Turn the ship around, and I forget who the other 2 are, but yeah, it should be great. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. Cool. So a little bit more about the coaching SIG and why we do what we do. We being me and Aaron Randall. Purpose, we want to help Agile practitioners dive deeply into Agile coaching. We have guest speakers, panel discussions, or interactive opportunities every month to learn something new about Agile coaching. So typically we would meet at UShip, which is where I work, but given the nature of 2020, we are all remote, but it's super cool because now folks from all over the world get to join these, and it's really awesome. And once again, we're super happy that you all are here. And again, facilitators of this event is myself, Brittany Durden, and then the great Aaron Randall, who is all over the place doing all of the things, all of the Agile things, all of the coaching things. So very grateful for her and everything she does for this SIG, because without her, it would not be possible. With that, I'm going to pass the virtual mic to Aaron to speak a little bit about the upcoming meetups. And yeah, take it away, Aaron.
So next month, our speaker is Steve Martin, who's going to be talking about lessons learned from coaching Agile leaders. Steve is a fantastic enterprise coach up at Agile Velocity, and I also know he's working on his PhD. So I have no doubt that Steve is going to come with lots of things that he's learned about doing some of his work for the past few years. And beyond that, we are working on setting up our 2021 schedule. So stay tuned to this channel for more fun things about that. But tonight, the main event is Jill Greenbaum. Jill and I met a few years ago when I started harassing Bikablo over in Germany saying, hey, I really want to do this training, but I can't go to Germany for it. Don't you have anybody here in the US? And lo and behold, not very long later, they emailed me Jill. And so Jill has actually come twice now doing the first full day basic Bikablo training. And she did that. UShip was very nice and just let us have the room down there. And actually they did both times. But Jill is amazing. She's not only the US-based trainer for Bikablo, she's also done incredible work in instructional design. She does a lot of speaking, and she has her own coaching practice. Her true love is, well, also Bikablo, but integrating her academic skills with her desire for perpetual learning. She does a lot with Martin Seligman's Authentic Happiness Coaching Program, Points of View, Mindfulness, EFT, and Nonviolent Communication. She does nonprofit work, bespoke sessions, education. She also holds bachelor's and master's degree in child psychology and bilingual special education, and a doctorate in curriculum development from Teachers College at Columbia University. So I'm really happy to have Jill with us tonight. She's been incredibly generous with her time and her knowledge in helping, well, frankly, me become a much better coach, but also really helping to incorporate that artistic side to bring that side in for her coaching and training as well. So with that, I want to turn things over to Jill.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Erin. What a delightful welcome. It's so nice to see you and Brittany again over the miles, so to speak. And so good evening, everyone. I am delighted to be here with you. You've probably learned more than you need to know about me. And so I'm not gonna talk about that much at all. We're gonna dive right into the material. And so I'm gonna ask all of you to come on. And in terms of, I'd love to see all your faces because we're going to be connecting with each other. And so that's part of our experience together. We'll not only be doing some artwork, we'll be sharing some of our artwork and our drawings together. And so I'm hoping, and I talked with Erin about this before, that you had a chance to download and at least have open on your computer or print out the file that Erin sent to you. And if not, I did just drop it in the chat. And so you could just get it from there if you want to. And once again, you don't have to have it. It's not necessary. It just is a nice roadmap. And so the first thing that you would see there is just sort of my introduction that says, hey, be sure to have your markers and paper with you because we're going to be using them tonight shortly. The other piece is you have one of my favorite things to do with visuals is a template for our time together. And if you're having any challenge seeing this in a small little square, just pin my video and things will get larger for you. I'll also be working on the wall behind me. And so it'll be helpful to have that video pinned for those times. But here's an agenda, and it really starts over here. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Bikablo as Erin was talking about it. So first of all, welcome, of course, and that's been done beautifully by both Erin and Brittany. And then this is a poster or a chart, as I prefer to call them. They go by all kinds of names, just telling you pretty much the same thing as you're seeing here on the template, that Bikablo is actually a made-up word. So if you're not familiar with it, I totally get that. It's made up of 3 German words: Bilder, Karten, and Block. So that means in German, pictures, cards, and pads. And I'm betting some of you are familiar with Bikablo and might have purchased some of their books through Neuland, a company that sells everything, actually, Bikablo. And so those books are usually really thick, and it looks almost like a pad of paper made out of thick paper. So Bikablo is the made-up name. That's how we say it here, at least in the US. And so just for a little bit of background, the company is based in Cologne. It has 40 trainers in Germany itself that work with about 4,000 people a year. There are about 24 of us around the world. We don't cover every single country, but we cover a lot of territory. And so I am the US representative. And so it is always our goal to enable people to draw, all right, to improve learning, communication, and collaboration. And so we're going to dive into that this evening. And so that is, once again, just the brief piece here with the agenda. And we're going to talk a little bit about thought sketching, and we're going to do some drawing. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you to draw your answer. And you'll have just 3 or 4 minutes to do that, just a simple sketch. So my question for you is, what is the best thing that's happened to you today? Please take the next 3 minutes to draw a picture of that. I'm going to put on a little music in the background. I will be minding the time. I'm going to pretend that it's morning and just put on A Beautiful Morning by the Rascals, because who doesn't love some fabulous music? You have about another minute. All right, it's almost time to put down those fabulous markers that you're working with. And I'd love to see it if you would hold up the drawings that you made. All right, and it might be fun to take a quick picture if people are holding up their drawings. And so I'm wondering if Brittany or Aaron, if we could do a quick screenshot on some of those. Always fun to post. And of course, we have 2 pages worth of people, so you need to be sure to leave up your drawings and a big smile for just a minute or so. And I'd also love to hear from a few people, maybe 3, 4, 5 people, about what this was like to be given a question, have a tight timeline, and to produce. What was that like? All answers are acceptable here. So feel free to come off of mute. You can also write in the chat, you know, if that's more your way of communicating right now, this time of day, that's super cool. Who's gonna dive in?
This is Liz. I went to the dog park today and the sun was still shining and it was so joyful. And the experience of putting that down on paper was really joyful as well because of the memories.
Oh, delightful, Liz. Thank you so much.
This is Nadine.
Yes,
I always enjoy, so I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they both brought home artwork today from school, and that's always like the highlight of my day.
totally. Fantastic. And what a great thing to do with your kids too, as you start to learn this. Super fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other thoughts from folks? There's just a little bit in the chat. You're welcome to write more. Another country you heard from. No other thoughts? Fun, challenging? Gosh.
Yeah, I'll share. This is Lonnie. I love drawing at the same time. It's harder when I'm trying to draw something that's a little more abstract, because mine was all about like collaborating and coming up with a new idea and having that like finally come out. And so it took me a moment to be like, what does that look like? So having that more abstract kind of concept.
Absolutely. And I think that's terrific. Thank you for pointing that out. We're going to dig into that in just a little bit, right? Because some things are more obvious or more metaphorical and easy than some of the bigger concepts. Thanks, Lainey. All right. And so being the trainer that I am, I can wait a good long time for an answer, but I know we have a lot to do. So I'm going to ask you to act like the New Yorker that I am and leap in whenever you have a thought that you want to ask. So whether that's putting it in chat, which I'm keeping open so I can glance at it every so often. I do want to say though, given the amount of time that we have, I'm going to be that fast New Yorker, try not to talk too quickly, and yet give us a lot to work with. If you have a question, by all means, put it in the chat, because we'll be sure to save it and I will review that tomorrow. And if you give me your email address, I'll be sure to get back to you also. So don't hesitate to ask a question. I want you to know that. All right. So we are now going to shift a little bit from that particular drawing experience to talking a bit about theory, like what is this thing thought sketching? And so thought sketching, and some of you might have been at the Agile, the Global Scrum Alliance Conference about a year and a half ago in Austin. I presented there also. And so this is a similar kind of experience to that in terms of what we're talking about. But thought sketching is really about how do we bring together our ideas and make them visual. So how do we imagine things? How do we visualize them? And then how do we get it down on paper? Not only so that we understand it, but that other people understand it too. And so we're going to go here for just a moment and talk in terms of theory. So there's something called the dual coding theory, and it's a theory of cognition or knowledge created by Alan Paivio, P-A-I-V-I-O, for those of you that are curious, and he's from University of Western Ontario. And he talks about the importance of the creation of mental images and how it aids our learning, and that we code both visually by seeing images, and we also code verbally by seeing words. And so that's what we're really using as our foundation for this work in thought sketching. I can also say that as a special education teacher many, many years ago in New York City, I knew the importance, and I'm sure you do too from your own experience and perhaps with your kids or maybe your grandkids or nieces or nephews, that we all learn as humans through seeing, hearing, and doing. And so when we combine those modalities, when we put those three, seeing, hearing, and doing modalities together, we have the strongest learning experience. And so that's another piece of this. So we know that if you were ever told in school, don't doodle while you're listening or that kind of thing, that is not accurate at all. It's not supported by science in any way. In fact, when we're working kinesthetically, meaning we're drawing, when we're looking, and when we're hearing, it really makes for a richer experience. And so we're going to play upon that right now in the work that we're going to do. So I'm going to ask you to think of a sentence, and Lainey, this might be the perfect time for you to think of a sentence you were thinking of or your experience today, but think of a sentence that's related to something from your work. So what might you say at work, or what might you hear somebody else say? It could be, we're facing a big deadline, or the project is off track, right? So pick a sentence and draw a picture about it, please. Just a real fast sketch. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to work on this a little more when you go into breakout groups, but I'd like you to have an idea to write about and to draw about. Sure, Rich, whiteboard is just fine. There are some challenges in working with a whiteboard, but I'm guessing if you do it a lot, you probably know what those are. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the clock and give you 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to think of a sentence you hear all the time at work and to visualize it. Take another 1/2 minute or so. Excellent. All right, so know that you're going to come back to it, so it doesn't need to be complete. You're going to work in groups in just a little bit, but we're going to do a bit of drawing first. And so I want you to put that aside, your first effort, well, actually your second, because you did your intro also, but that was your second effort. We're going to learn a few things now. And so this is where you're going to want to have some paper or a whiteboard or a flip chart, whatever suits you. And I'm gonna share just a couple of icons with you and then talk with you about how you can start to draw your own icons. And so I'm going to refer to a method that's in a book, one of my favorites, and there are great books out there, all kinds of resources available to visual practitioners, people that do this kind of work, but of course also Agile coaches, trainers, and facilitators. One of my favorite is this one. So it's called USMO, Thinking with the Pen. It's written by Martin Hausman, and he is one of the co-owners of Bikablo. And so it really gives you the depth and breadth of the field, like what are all the things that you could be doing in this field? But that's not really why I'm referring to it now. I'm referring to it because it also speaks to us about how you can start to think about drawing. And so, yep, another good book, Christina. All right, so I'm going to ask you to follow along with me. So you may want to pin the video so you can see up closer. And we're going to start by using the letters UZMO, which is just a bunch of letters put together. It doesn't mean anything in particular, but you'll see how we use them soon. Holy mackerel, that is a well-used marker. All right. So we're going to find another one of those darlings. Okie doke. All right. So here are the letters UZMO, and you're very familiar with those letters. Thank you. Nice for spotlighting there. We're going to use these letters to make a light bulb. And so I'm going to be telling you some things along the way also. So you might want to take some notes either on the page you're working on or on a different page, because these letters, I'm going to create the light bulb in this order, meaning using letters UZMO, but that would not be the easiest way for me to do it. And one of the things to learn about visualization or this drawing technique is we find the way that works for us. And there are all kinds of possibilities. So we move beyond struggle and we say, if it's not working one way, we do it another. But you're going to watch me and I'm going to try my very best to do a good job with this because this is not the way I do it usually. All right, so we'll start with you. Down here. So there's our U and there's our Z. So this is the metal part that goes into where you screw into the light bulb. Here's our M. So we've got UZ, M, and O. And there's our light bulb. Not bad, perhaps a little too round. So that's using the letters in a particular order. When I do it myself, I'm going to show you one. I think it's going to look a little better. And so I tend to start like this. To me, that looks better. So I have more accuracy when I start with the O and then add the rest of it. And so part of this is always finding your own way. All right. So that's the first tip, in that we want to look at the components of whatever it is we're going to draw. So we're going to do some things, and I'm going to teach you just a bit in the next 10 minutes before I send you into groups to work more on that sentence you started with. Let's make some basic shapes because everything is going to come from those. So we're going to make a square and we're going to work on every stroke separately. So these are distinct strokes. So we have a nice square, the sides pretty even, and the corners are closed. And I tell you, when I started doing this work, my kryptonite was not closing my corners. So I had kind of sloppy squares. And if any of you work digitally, you'll know that you really want to close your figures so you can drop color in there really fast. All right, so that's something to be thinking about also. But we want this, we do not want one continuous line that, quite honestly, probably looks a lot like the toast you had this morning. We are not doing that because that's not going to be a square to other people. So let's also do, and I would suggest trying squares of different sizes. And certainly I do most of my work large and I prefer that. And it's a really different feeling than working small. It is easier to go from big to small than small to big. And so that's why at Bikablo, we always start everyone out doing this analog, as we call it, meaning paper and markers, as opposed to going straight to digital. So here's a square. We might do a triangle. Once again, 3 separate strokes. And now let's do a circle. And I'm going to ask you to think about, where are you starting to make your circle? I always start at 12 o'clock. And actually I have a tell, not that I'm a poker player, but I have a tell, and my tell is, if I start my circle down at 6 o'clock and go up and around, it's never going to be as good. And it's my sign to myself that I'm tired and I need to pay better attention. So I make a circle, as you saw me do here, starting right about 12, and I go counterclockwise. I go pretty fast at the beginning, but I slow down around the top so that I can make the top match, meaning connect. So there's a pretty good circle. It's quite round. If we were going to make a figure, though, we would need a head that was oval as opposed to round. And otherwise, we're making like Charlie Brown, right? A blockhead, big round head, right? So try making an oval. Almost egg-shaped. All right, so that's something to be thinking about. And once again, if you have a quick question and you want to come off of mute, by all means do. I'm happy to answer it. All right, so this is a good start in terms of some basics here. Let's see what we can do with some of these things. Let's use this square and make a piece of paper that then also becomes a stack of paper. So we're going to start by making a vertical line and a horizontal. And this is going to actually be a piece of paper that has a dog-eared corner, one of the corners bent down. I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way across up at the top and make an L. I'm going to come down. So now we're looking like this. We're almost there. And now we have a dog-eared piece of paper. And if we want to make it a stack, that implies a stack of paper. And I want to point out to you that these are at an angle. All right, so that's showing our stack of paper, and we're always making these at an angle. All right, so that's your stack of paper, a single paper, a stack of paper. Let's make, using the square again, let's make a gift or a present or a surprise, any number of things. So there's another icon that could be easily used. Let's do a couple graphic elements, because maybe you're making, you're showing a process perhaps, and you want to use arrows to indicate where people should be looking within your drawing. So here's how to make a perfect arrow every time. Well, darn close to perfect. Let's put it that way. We're going to make 2 parallel lines. A line up and a line down, perpendicular. And then we're going to imagine the midpoint here. And you could even put a dot if you wanted to. I'll put one there just to show you what I might do. And you're going to get a great arrow every time. So oftentimes people will put something in the arrow, like a word like our way or my way or the way or go this way or that kind of thing. So here's a hint about how to use text and also containers, because this is a kind of container. You write the words first and then put the container around it. Otherwise, you can face some challenges in terms of making it all fit. All right, so that's a thought. Let's do another container that might be very useful to you. We're going to make, and I'm just going to highlight here with our light bulb, that proportion is always in play. So the things I always talk about in the training for Bikablo are size, sequence, and proportion. And those are the things I'm always thinking about, because when things don't look right, like if you have, this to me is a little out of proportion. If I had gotten way bigger or this was very small, it probably would have looked more like a mushroom, not what I'm looking for. Okay, so we're always paying attention to proportion. All right, so it's about 2/3 and 1/3. So we're going to make a speech bubble now. And once again, you can make these in either way. I'm going to show, well, I'm only going to show you the way I do it well. Let's talk about that. All right, when I make a speech bubble, I make something that looks like, we call it a carrot. So it's like a fancy V. And then I make the actual bubble part of it. Because if I make the bubble part first, I never leave enough room for the V. And so it's out of proportion. So this again might be 2/3 and 1/3. It might be 3/4 and 1/4, but you start to look at it and you say, does this look realistic? And if you were going to write, of course, you'd put the words in first, and then you'd put the thought bubble around it. And so I'm wondering if there are any thoughts or questions so far. I'm happy to show you a couple more things, and then I'm going to place you into groups, or not I, but our team will place you into a group. Let's see, what else can let's do, how about a thought bubble? So related, so you know the letter U, we saw it before. Let's use it again. So you saw me do every stroke separately, so I get a good result. And I'm guessing another thing that might be helpful to you, so we'll go over very quickly, is how to make a figure, right? Because maybe you want to have some figures in your drawings. So we're going to use the oval shape that we talked about before. And let's see, so I'm going to put it. And so there's my head, which is an oval. There's my torso. So this is 1 unit. Once again, we're talking proportion. This should be about 2 units. And then the legs are also 2 units. Now, I'll tell you, this is the way I teach it, because this is the way we are. And actually, those legs could be a little taller. I don't get the best result when I do it in 3 pieces. I tend to do just 2 pieces like this. And so I just have to imagine, where's that halfway point? Because if you think about it, I mean, it feels kind of funny, right? Those legs seem so long. But in fact, if you're standing up, you realize that your arms go down below your torso. And so we need to be aware of that. And if we were going to put some arms on, you might do really simple ones. My favorite pose is this, that kind of thing. And so there's your person, and you could always pop some feet on, and you could go to town, but we're not going to do that now. But here's a person that you can start to draw. All right. And so I want to check in. We're just going to.
Do you actually connect the head to the body?
Never. That's why there's a gap. So in Bikablo, and you'll see other people that do it differently, right? We're teaching a particular style, but for us, that's where the neck is. So if you literally stick the head on the body, it looks really odd. If you could create a neck, and you'll see other people, you know, I've trained under other people, and I've had a different style before I came to Bikablo, but at this point, we do not put a neck. Great question. Thank you for asking. Is there another question or two out there?
Do you put faces on your heads?
That's a yes and. And so the answer is, in general, no. We don't, but we do have an emotions book. It's actually over there in my bookcase where we show lots of different emotions. There are 3 different Bikablo books aside from the one that I've shown you. And one of them is all about emotions and adding faces. So it's not a bad thing to do. It's just in general, we tend to indicate what the person is thinking or feeling by the position of their body. So are they moving fast? Are they falling? Are they sitting on the ground? Are they jumping up in the air? And those kinds of things. And so, Sherry, I'm hoping that I answered your question in terms of what's the reason you detach the head from the body is because we're implying that there's a neck here, because nobody's head actually sits on their shoulders. So you would either need to draw in a neck if you wanted to make it more realistic, but this work is also more metaphorical or figurative than actually literal. Yeah, and so I wouldn't draw a neck. I mean, we wouldn't in Bikablo. Yeah, all right. And so what I'd like to do at this point is talk with you, right, would not draw a neck, you've got it. I'd like to talk with you a little bit about directions for the activity because you're going to be placed in a group with 2 other people. I'm thinking that's a good number. We have 45 people, so that could be 14 groups. It sounds like it. I mean, it would be 15, but Erin, Brittany, and I will probably hang out and talk and help anyone that might need it. But what I'm going to do now is show you the instructions and also a different way that you can use drawings. So I have just shared, I'm sharing with you right now my screen. All right. And so this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And if you were at the conference last year, you saw this, but literally the poster, I have it in the room right next to me here. It's almost 5 feet high in terms of the instructions, because I was up on a stage, I was way far away from everybody else. It needed to be really big. In this room, that's not necessary. And so I've literally taken a photograph of the chart that I drew and am sharing it with you here on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So you can see the instructions. You might want to take a screenshot if that's helpful, or perhaps you'll just do a quick notation of what you're doing. But in a moment, you'll be placed into groups of 3 people. You will each have a sentence from the exercise that you did before we started doing a little bit of drawing, right? Like, our deadline is looming, the machinery is broken, the computers are down, whatever it is that you happen to do, but you've each got your own sentence from the previous exercise. You'll choose who's going to go first. The first person will read her or his sentence and then show it if you want to, through Zoom, to the other people so it's really clear what the sentence is about. You're then going to take about 2 minutes to draw, or as we put it here, all are visualizing the sentence. Take approximately 2 minutes to draw it. So that's step 4. Step 5 is show each other the results and talk amongst yourselves as to what you like about each. And you might even decide that one is better than another, or they're all really great. Certainly not a contest, but we are looking for good communication here. And that's important, that it's not just understandable to us, that it's understandable to the other people in the group that we're working with. And then that should take a total of maybe 3 minutes. And then you'll start again with the second person. You'll use that person's sentence and run through this process again. So it should be about 10 minutes for all 3 people to be able to share the sentence, visualize, show each other what you've done, and everybody should get a turn in that way. So what I want to do here is pause and ask if you have any questions. And by all means, come off of mute, because that'll be the fastest way for me to answer them.
So Jill, this is Liz again. I have a question. When we did the activity, when we created a picture from our own sentence,
yes.
Are you suggesting we just say the sentence, or we actually share the picture in advance of others creating their own?
No, just share the sentence.
Okay.
Don't give away your work, Liz.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And you might even refine your work. You might say, oh, I did it this way, but now that I've had a little more time to think about it, or I have a few more drawings at my disposal, I might change it up a little bit. Thanks for asking the question, Liz.
Thanks.
Are you doing anything with this paper that we printed? That's yours?
It's a good place to take notes on everything we've been talking about. So as I had said, that's a template for an agenda. And so at this point, I might have been jotting a few notes down about Usmo or proportion.
Oh, I just jotted them on my other stuff.
And that's totally cool also. You should do it where it suits you best. Any other thoughts or questions at this moment? Because you know we're taking the time away from drawing. All right, and so through the magic of breakout rooms, hopefully everyone will be with two partners. If not, and you're just one, you have even more time to draw with each other. But we'll come back in, let's make it 11 minutes from now, so we have a little time to debrief and chat.
Okay, Brittany will be sending us all to breakout rooms in just a moment.
Fantastic.
This is the most awkward portion of any Zoom call. Is the breakout, conundrum.
Yeah, I'm doing it manually and I regret that now. But almost done.
I did not post the instructions. I can share my screen again. So if you want to take a screenshot, you can do that. So I'll do that hopefully before you go. There we go. So you could take a screenshot for those of you that want it, but among the three of you, you'll probably have enough memory, or you'll make something equally good, if not better.
Almost done.
Andre, you don't see Jill's screen?
So I guess one of the questions is, are you on an iPad? Because sometimes that's more challenging.
Okay, so Andre, if you're on an iPad, that might be. So just as a recap, in your triads, you will use the sentence that you wrote down earlier. The first person in your triad will read that sentence. The three of you will draw a visualization of that sentence. Then you will show the results to one another. And then you'll start over again with the next sentence.
And I'm also going to drop it in the chat, which you may be able to see because I just took a screenshot of it.
Okay, I think we're good. We're
All right.
ready to go?
Let her rip, Brittany.
Okay.
Oh no. We got separated.
Yeah. Oh, we're done. Okay.
Back. All right, we've got just about everybody, unless we lost a few people along the way.
That was really fun.
It was.
Yay, what was fun about it?
Seeing how different people's brains solve a visual problem.
Absolutely. Super. And what else? So what'd you like about it? What'd you learn? You're welcome to come off of mute. Please write in the chat.
I mean, there's definitely some common symbols or things that represent, like we were talking about, like seasons, like let's have tax season. And we both ended up with like calendars, because like when you're thinking about a season of time or something, that's the representation of it.
Absolutely. Terrific, Lainey. Thanks.
I was surprised how we.
Go ahead,
I was
Wayne.
surprised how we came up with similar ideas. Like we were asking for help, so a couple of us came up with this idea of a megaphone shouting out for help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it seemed to be a common thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Raji, that's an interesting point that you make there. You're saying when you're not kinesthetically intelligent, it's harder. So I'm going to say another yes and to that. Number one, because I'm not sure what you mean by kinesthetically intelligent, I'm assuming that you're talking about your ability to draw, because visualization is not only drawing, it's bringing together the drawing piece, but also the conceptualization piece. And so there are all kinds of places where it can be easier or more difficult for folks. The good news about our brains is that they are so advanced that even when we make a simple circle and put two dots in it and a U shape, our brain interprets that as a face. So this is not art. This is not about being an illustrator. There are people that come into this field that way, but that is not most people. They tend to be facilitators, trainers, and coaches. And they're actually, and I say this with love and affection, there can be some challenges coming in when you already have the drawing skills and you don't have the listening skills if you're going to be doing graphic recording or graphic facilitating, because that is a distinct skill set. Just because we're born with ears doesn't mean that we know how to listen for the most important pieces, extract them, then come up with the visualization or have planned in advance knowing what we're going to be doing, and then actually execute in the moment. So there's a lot beyond the actual visualizing piece that goes into being a graphic recorder or graphic facilitator. And so I'm wondering what other thoughts or questions you have in our remaining couple of minutes before I know that you're going to wrap up your meeting.
I was just surprised how the sentences that the two people I was in the breakout session with were like really, one of them was, "We are a team of passionate people," and the other was, "Gratitude turns what we have into enough," which I felt like were really big concepts.
Right.
And to have 2 minutes to encapsulate that, my first reaction was, that's impossible. And then it was just try. And then we all ended up doing it. And that was, I don't know, that was really cool.
Totally. Yeah, Melody, thank you so much for mentioning that, because it is easy to feel overwhelmed, to think this is too big or it's too complex, and then just let go of that and say, look, I'm going to give it a shot, and then compare your different ideas and learn from each other. So I'm hoping that that was part of the experience for all of you also.
I have
Any
questions
tips for
about some of the finesse, like some of these have shadows and all that other stuff. Is that something you would kind of do afterwards just to add in some more dimension?
Absolutely. And so that is one of the things that you learn in a Bikablo training. Just real quickly, you'll notice that I did a little bit of work while you were out, because Erin, Brittany, and I were talking. But I just added a little color here. This is not a shadow, but I added a little bit of color here. I am going to put a shadow around the entire frame. And certainly every one of the objects that are here would have a certain kind of shadow. And they're actually in Bikablo, in the basic course, we teach 5 different ways of making shadows. Oh, look at that marker hand. We teach 5 different ways of shadowing people, objects, material, the ground, and all kinds of things. So yeah, it really does lead into thinking more in terms of volume and depth. Great points. There was another quick question, I think.
Just wondering if you got any tips for doing this online.
Okay, so tell me what you mean about online, because we're online now and I'm doing it mostly here. So are you referring to analog or digital? Or both?
Digital, like drawing, like on a electronic whiteboard.
And so I do a lot of work with my iPad, and I use Procreate. And I actually have started coaching a number of people in how to do this work digitally. You need to be proficient in using the program of your choice to begin with, so that you can then start to think about the creation of the different layers and how you'll do this. So it's super cool and fun. And once again, if that's something that's of interest, in Bikablo, the way we do it is you have to learn these basics first before you go to digital, because then it becomes easier. Once again, it's like bringing together visualizing and thinking. This is bringing together the drawing and the thinking and the listening, and also the digital piece and being proficient. So it's absolutely done. I would also suggest starting by making things in advance, creating templates or other types of drawings in advance, and then sharing those with people, or having them up on your device already and then adding a layer and drawing on top of that for some capture. So that's my quick and dirty answer there, Wayne. And so I am teaching my time. I know there are things to do. I'll ask for just one more question. And then of course, any questions that you have, please put them in the chat. Give me your email address, or let me know that you want to connect on LinkedIn, and I will do that in the next day or so. Any other quick questions? Okay.
Are there online classes for the system that we can take if there's not one in our city?
Absolutely. And so early on, probably before we actually officially started, I was talking about how my colleague, who was also named Jill Langer from Calgary, and I team up because in Bikablo, we want you to have a fabulous experience, which is not just this particular piece, which is the visualizing, it's also the technical piece. So in Bikablo, we are partnering up. We have a maximum of 12 folks. We have a basic course coming up, Basic Day 1 in November. And so that is online. And so until COVID is over, we will be doing online. Jill and I have been offering one or more classes every month since May, and we will continue to do so. Maybe not in December unless we have a huge demand, in which case we'll do it, because where are people going for the most part, right? But if not, we'll certainly start up again in January. So feel free to be in touch. And I'm always on LinkedIn letting people know what's up and what's happening. And for those of you that are outside North America, you might be in different times, significantly different time zone. So you may be in Europe or in Asia. There are definitely colleagues there that are doing that work. And if you go to the Bikablo site and look for global training, you will learn about them there. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I might have some questions about materials to use for drawing. What materials, what brands could you recommend?
So I'm going to recommend to you, and then I am going to stop, Erin, I promise. I'm going to suggest that you work with Neuland materials. So that's Neuland, right, as has just written in. So it's neuland.com. They have a site that's international. You're going to need to click for whatever country it is that you are in. And so they're based in Germany. They have unbelievable markers. In fact, during our time, because I had started with a marker that wasn't very juicy, this particular one, which is a permanent marker, which is what I do all of this work in, and then I add color on top of that. These are refillable markers. So literally while you all were drawing, I was refilling my marker. And I love that about it. And also the nibs are replaced. I should be like a spokesperson, right? But I'm not. This is a huge marker, super fun to work with, takes a little getting used to. You can replace the nib, you can add more ink. They last a long time. They have an amazing array of colors. And so it's easy to get carried away. And so I would suggest start off with something you're really comfortable with and then move into more color, because too much color is overwhelming for people and we try and stay away from that. So I'm stopping now, Erin.
No, all good. In fact, I was just about to say, if anyone does training with Jill, and I promise that we will get her back into Austin once it is safe to do so, she brings all of these materials with her so that if you want to try them, it's available in there to use. And she comes with templates, and her classes are so well designed and well structured. You guys, even I leave, having some semblance of what to do. It was, I really enjoyed my time with her. So I promise as soon as it's safe, we will get her in again.